Hi, and welcome to Your Inside Power. I'm your show host, Patricia Stepler, and today I have a very special guest, Sandra Lynch. Sandra, are you there? I don't see your face.
You don't see it?
I don't see your face. I see your name, but I don't see your face.
You're kidding.
I'm
What
not kidding. Let me see if maybe I can.
Oh, there. Does that
There. All
work?
right. Okay, that's good. Oh, I was
Did you
worried I wasn't going to have you on here for a picture.
It was going to be like a radio show.
Yeah. So let me just tell you a little bit about Sandra. And she is helping entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur, you might want to turn to her for financial help. And she has a very interesting story, which hopefully we'll get into a little bit today. But she also does public speaking, and she's from California. So if you're in California, Southern California, right?
Yes.
Yes, so if you're in that area, you might want to engage her in, some type of speaking or facilitating or talking to people about their finances. So welcome to our show, Sandra.
Thank you so very much, Patricia. I appreciate you coming
Yes.
and being invited.
Yes, and I'm excited to have you here today. So Sandra's also a mother and a grandmother.
Yeah.
And so she's one of these women. I just love these women who are working even after they could stop and just sit back and kick up their feet, but they want to stay involved in life. And I think that's great. That's my plan too. So that's why I think it's so great. So anyway, you were telling me about the principles of which you run your business and what you're starting something new in the next week or so. So could you just share a little bit about that?
I love to. For the I don't know how many years, my sister friends all know the story. It's but called 8 Principles for Individual Economic Recovery, according to 2 Kings 4:1-7. And I can share with you the 8 principles. It's a story of the widow woman whose husband had died and left her in debt. And she had 2 sons who the creditor was wanting to come and enslave to settle the debt. So she had her why. That's the very first principle. What is your why? And I start off the story like that. It almost sounds like a modern day story, doesn't it?
Yes.
Single head of household.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to Elijah. Elijah, according to the scriptures, is a prophet, Prophet, but he's a business coach about Profit. That's what a business coach is about. And then I say, well, how can you say that? Well, let me share with you how. The first thing he does is ask her, what is it that you do? Or what is it that you have? And she says, I have nothing, save a little oil. Now, first thing we had, what is your why? Number 2, get a business coach. And number 3, what is your self-inventory? Well, she said she had oil, but, she didn't think anything of it. And I said, God, why did she say she had no oil? He said, because she'd been giving it away. How many of us today have a gift, talent, or skill that we give it away? Think nothing of it. So that made sense. That's why I said, okay, that had to be the Holy Spirit to come back with an answer like that. Then he said to her, go borrow many vessels, not a few, from your neighbors. Do you realize that's the very first crowdfunding campaign?
Okay.
So he made certain that she had certain funding to start the business.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, take those vessels and go in your house and close the door behind you and have the vessels until there's no more. That's the next thing was a business plan. Isn't that a business plan in the third verse where he said where to go, what the product was going to do? He gave her employees for the son. And by the way, that is your first home-based business model. Stop and think about it.
Yes.
So we've got, what is your why? Number 2, business coach. Number 3, self-inventory. 4, self-fund. Number 5, business plan. 6, involve the family and community. Number 7, coachable, because she did exactly what was said. And the eighth one was when the scriptures say that she'd done that, they ran out of oil. She goes back to Elijah and I says, what is it I'm supposed to do? Now I've got all these vessels. Can't you imagine her going around to her neighbors? She didn't have the internet. She didn't have
Did you use her feet?
That and the camels or the horses. If you've gone to see any of we went to see the movie. It was Journey to Bethlehem, I think it was, and they had camels and the horses and stuff like that. So it was a journey, So I'm quite sure I had to do the same thing. And this was in 860 BC. So there was a lot of hand traveling. The eighth principle is that Elijah told her to go sell it and she'll have sufficient to settle her debt and live off for the rest of her life. And when you think about that's knowing your numbers, and that's where I come in, helping people to understand the basic foundational business money language. And I say business money language because money has its own terms and meaning.
Okay.
It really, really does. It's just, is it what I hear that people say I received or I made $100,000. Well, my question comes in, was that gross revenue or was that profit? That's my thinking,
Right.
And so it's the same thing. It's the money, but the meaning is different because the amounts are different. And so they
are quite different.
They are quite different. And so that's what I'm about, help educating people on the basics, because if they have the foundation is so important. And I do things a little bit differently. You and I earlier, we talked about my calculator that I developed. It's called my Price is Right calculator. And I developed that. And what's interesting is basically I wrote the foundation course, the information for it when I was in prison. And people asked what, and I said it was federal. I still like to know what it was all about. They said I was guilty of something, and it didn't make sense, but I felt God had a good reason for it. I call him Grandpa Joseph. He was put into, Joseph in the Bible was put into prison falsely, but he came out to be the controller of the country. So I guess that's what I have left to become, not of the country, but of my own finances. Because while he was in there, I said he became very humble. He was probably an arrogant young man. And while he was in prison, he became very humble, forgiving, and smart, and he knew how to calculate. So, I had a learning process as well. I learned that our judicial system is not 100% accurate. Number two, I learned not to judge anybody that says they've got a prison record. But also the purpose is for me to empower other people. I'm 71 years of age, doing over again. Starting over from ground zero. I want to give those youngsters that come out to take what they've learned, what they already have, the skills, and turn it around, knowing that they can become self-employed and go from there. Because if you wait for the government or employees or employers rather to accept you, it may not work.
Sandra, one of the things you were saying there, and it's one of the things that I try to work when I have clients, is to talk about the powers that you have inside. And you can only deal, which hence is where my show name came from, but you can only deal with obstacles when you really go inside. Because if you tend to allow you to look at the outside world, then you tend to blame and play victimhood and things like that. And we really need to realize that if we're going to change ourselves or change our situation, it comes from inside. It's not coming outside.
I totally agree. It is it's you, what you have. What is it that, Elijah asked the widow woman, what is it that you have? And she was looking at the natural, you're seeing internally, but she'd been giving it away. Elijah, as a business coach, a prophet or whatever, he showed her how to take what she had naturally and turn it into, because that's what it is. I mean, stop and think about it. In 7 verses, he gave her the foundation for a business.
Right. And, you know, if we want something different, we can do that by figuring it out. What is it we're good at? What gifts do we have?
That is
and come
true.
up with an idea, and then we can start to put it together. And when we do that, then everything starts to come that we need. And
I totally agree with you. There are even modern day. Yes, I was sharing a story about 860 BC. But do you realize in today's time, there's some really good, you can Google these people. It's called the MAC. It's the lady that had an apple cake. Her apple cake recipe, she had a similar story. They were getting ready to close her foreclosed on her house. And she took a cake and made this bundt cake. And now she's a baker. She took a recipe that her grandmother, I think it was, that she shared with her. And they even now made a movie out of it. And then I love watching Shark Tank. There's, I love it. You'll see where people and that's one of the things the sharks ask people, where did this idea come from? How did you take it and convert it? And even though it may be tangible, what you're saying is inside and bringing it out. What's inside is the brain. What is it, your passion? And turn it into a business. I have a friend that does quilting. I love following her because the quilts that she makes, and she was started out as a photographer. And she was a photographer that traveled the world, but now she's doing quilts and traveling the world even, I think, more. And then on Shark Tank, there was this one young man that's called Mo's Bows. Did you ever see the one where Mo's Bows? He's a 9-year-old. I think he started out as a 9-year-old doing bow ties, and he wanted to be dressed well. And he did when he sold them. And now his bow ties are in Macy's and stuff like that. And he was on Shark Tank. So what you're saying, taking what's inside and bringing it out.
You know, and here's the downside of that. I have a friend who had an idea for an invention. Of course, all inventions first start inside your head, and then you bring them out. So he invented this thing, but he did nothing with it. And here, you know, a few years later, somebody else got that idea. And so sometimes we have to remember, when we get an idea, is to act on it.
I agree.
If it's something that really excites us and we can see ourselves doing it, act on it. Don't wait until everything is perfect, because that probably is never going to happen. So just act on it where you are with what you have. Just start moving.
That is so true. And I'm one of those people that I think everything has to be perfect first. So I'm getting over that. I have mentors too that say, okay, it doesn't always have to be perfect. And it's like, okay, I'm working on that.
Well, and here's the problem. So when we want it to be perfect, we sometimes, you know, have to have our plan, and we think that our plan is the only one. We don't know everything. The universe knows. And so sometimes we'll get an idea, or somebody will bump into us, and they could be the exact person or thing we're waiting for, but we miss it because it's not in our plan, you know? So we really have to be careful of that perfection. And I understand that, because a lot of entrepreneurs are very perfectionists.
Yes.
And it's, you know, a good thing and a bad thing at the same time.
That's true. And a lot of us entrepreneurs have ADHD.
Yes. Quite true.
So we have all of those traits. In fact, as a seasoned professional bookkeeper, I have some clients that I work with, and we do sharing. I go do Zoom sharing it, and I always like to look how many tabs they have open on their computer. And if you have 20 or more open, you are a serious entrepreneur. If you only have one or two, we got, you know, you're just playing around. But if you have 20 or more, you're serious. And so when I was setting up here today, one of my the young man here goes, you've got a lot of tabs open. I said, you want to count, figure it out? And he said, no, it's just so. So yes, but no, perfection when you're, we just can't. And they also, the thing is, change always comes along. Stop and think about the reason why Microsoft is so great. They always have a new edition the next year. QuickBooks, version 2, version 3. And they don't give it out for free. You have to pay for the next year's edition.
Right.
So that's one thing you have to look at as well. So, you know, I'm learning that perfection is that get it where it's at, that it can work. Right. And then anything that you do to improve it is the next edition.
Exactly. Yes. we all have to keep that in mind.
Yes,
there's always going to be some way to improve something or to make it better. And what you have is not the end all. I remember I was talking to a coach one time and I was telling her about something new I was learning. And she goes, I've learned everything I'm going to learn. And I'm thinking, then you are not much of a coach. So, you know, there's always something else we need to learn, something else we, you know, have to do to keep up with the change. And Darren Hardy, who I really like, he was talking about in today's world, 1 year, just a single year is like 100 years of previous history. So that's just how fast things are changing. And so, you know, when we use the excuse of, well, I don't know that, it's, you know, you might know it, but I don't know it. No, none of us know it because everything is changing so fast that you can't possibly know it all. So just do something.
Well, you know, that's interesting. We're now in November. Didn't we just celebrate Christmas last week?
Yeah.
I mean, can you, to me, it seems, is it age that has caused us to seem like this year has gone by so quick, or is time moving along much faster and we're just not recognizing it? I'm being,
things are changing quickly, that's for sure.
And it's interesting what you said, that the statement, there's an old African proverb, the world is old, but our future springs from its past. Do we make the same mistakes as history, or do we? So that's how I believe what you're saying. We look at how history is played. Can we play it smarter, or we're going to repeat this, as they say, the same stupid mistakes over and over again?
Exactly. Well, if we don't know our history, that could all easily happen, right?
That's true. That is so true. So
let me ask another question. What kind of clients do you like working with? Because there might be some people in the audience that, you know, are really connecting with you. And, you know, what kind of clients do you work with? And tell me a little bit about how you go about working with them.
Okay. I work with people that want to learn. I work with people that want to have a business and they can do it themselves. I don't want to be, I don't mind helping and teaching, but you've got to take responsibility for your own action. There's a statement that we say in bookkeeping, I can't want this any more than you. You know, I can help you, but you've got to want it more than I do. And I'll help you. I'll get into that position and help you, but you've got to do something as well yourself. So as long as they're in USA. Now, I have an international team that I work with, my team. I teach, and I also believe in bootstrapping.
Okay.
You're familiar with that term?
Yes.
Bootstrapping. Yes. And so I use Fiverr, Fiverr.com a lot. So that puts me going around the globe, internationally. I've been working with Fiverr for a long period of time. And so my profile looks quite interesting. I've done, I think, over 1,000 gigs.
Wow.
So that gives you an
That's a lot.
idea. That is a lot, but it's fun. It's fun going out there and doing that. And I teach people how to do that. Fiverr, they asked, well, what is Fiverr? I said, it's an international warehouse of talent. I mean, people come up with all kinds of skills and things
Yeah,
like
they do.
that. They do. Haven't you used it? It looks like you're familiar
I
with
have
it.
used it for like some branding and things like
Okay.
that. I've used it.
Voiceovers it's fun to go out.
No, I never used it for voiceovers.
They can do voiceovers, animation, videos. I just wrote 3 publications using chat. And I call her Chatty. I love Chatty. And then I would go out and I found an editor that went through and made certain that it was humanized, as they call it. And then I found someone that could do the layout of the report, so it's an ebook format. And now I've been to, with that, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. I'm getting ready to have the book, what do they call it? Like the movie, when you get to see as a movie, they're going to do that to the book.
Okay.
So you can see a glance of it, of that. And so all on Fiverr on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
So, I teach my clients how to do it. And so that way they can understand how Fiverr works, and that way they can be in their toolbox. So I work with people that my target market are crafters, people that are working from their home business and they feel a little bit insecure about it, afraid of it. Those that want to know how to properly price their product, goods, or service. The calculator that I created is called my Price is Right calculator. It's designed because a lot of people overlook why they're not making any money. And there's about 2 or 3 factors that they overlook. Number one is the cost of money. When you use the payment processors like PayPal,
right,
Stripe, they all have their hand out to get their portrait, to get their
for those fees.
So let's say you've got something that's going to cost $50. They're going to get anywhere from 2 to 6%, depending on who your payment processor, plus that constant 30 cents.
Right.
Well, that's not money that you can count on using. So then you're looking at your cost of goods sold, that's your material and your labor, those things that are direct onto that, that's got to come out of there. Then the other thing that people overlook is the commission or the affiliate rates that they're going to be paying to someone for that. That all factors into what's called your cost of basically your variable cost. Right. Then you need what's left over is called your gross profit, and then I call it and also the industry calls it contribution margin, and the contribution margin and then pay your overhead. And my calculator helps them identify all of their overhead. In fact, I had a person who has a financial program. She wanted to see if a monthly fee sufficient to cover her overhead and how many members. That's where break even comes. This calculator identifies break even point.
Oh, that's awesome.
It does it all. So you don't have to know the formulas. You don't have to know the math. And it's a cute little, I love my calculator. And so that's it. So
I thought of that when you talked about, what was your $100,000 you made? Is that your revenue,
Yes,
is that,
yes.
what you're keeping, because so often people don't realize the taxes that you're going to end up paying on top of all that, and then they get to tax time and they're like, I don't have the money, I don't have the money to pay the taxes because they always spent it because they didn't think.
But the taxes is another thing. I had a gentleman I worked with for over 20 years, and he had a book called Split Being Tax Saving, Home Business Tax Savings Made Easy.
Mm-hmm.
The man had the nerve to die on me last year. And after working with him for 20 years, he published a book every year to help home-based business owners. Well, I, in the process of acquiring it, the book, because I wasn't going to let it die.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to work on my website as well. That way I can help them understand the numbers and also the benefit of a home-based business,
Mm-hmm.
where he stressed like the 5 elements for a home-based business. You can take off the square footage of your home. You use your car, your mileage that you track right now. It's what, 60.
I think it's 65. Yes.
And 65.5. And so, so every 2 miles, if you're not tracking it, it's reducing your tax liability.
Mm-hmm.
Then how to hire your children.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of giving them allowance, hire your children. And then also how to take advantage of what they call base. I think that's what it's called. The where your all your out-of-pocket medical expenses can be
Mm-hmm.
tax deductible as a business expense.
Right.
I mean, so that way all these expenses mount up, and then what's left over. So are you enjoying the money that you earn? And it can become a business expense, legally business
Mm-hmm.
expense. And then you're paying taxes on the difference.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah.
So that's my passion. So anybody that wants to know that information, that's who and how they can
Okay,
find
great.
me. Yes.
Yes. And we'll put that in the show notes and,
yes,
put that in there, and they can just go to ismypriceright.com. And you said you had a new site. I think
yes.
I have it here too.
Want me to share with it?
Yes. Why don't you? Yeah. I'm not seeing it.
Okay. It's called the letter I, the letter M, the letter A, HustlePreneure, HustlePreneur.myshopify.com.
Okay. All right. And
And
so somebody wants to get in touch with you, that's what they need to go to, right?
yes.
And I will make sure I put that into the information too, that they can find you. And do you have any other words here? I know we're coming to the end of our time. Do you have any other thoughts that you could share that would be really helpful to the people out there listening to this conversation?
Always follow your heart and your passion, because you're worth it. You are. Never give up with your dreams. And I always love to tell people, take care of yourself first. It's the oxygen mask.
Mm-hmm.
You can't help anybody until you help yourself.
That's right. That's beautiful. I thank you so much, Sandra, for being part of our show today. And, please, if you need help, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for that financial help, reach out to Sandra. Thank you again for being with us.
I want to thank you for allowing me to be with you.
Oh, yeah, sure. Anytime.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.